2. Test 1, 2.
This bed, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anything else can help you?
I hope not. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it? Okay. There's 5 minutes away. I discovered that there's a place to get a little pedicure. So I'm going to go get one and then come back. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, gang. Just all right. I think I'm ready to go. Welcome. My name is Dan. This is Daily Dan's Art Adventure, number 14. Forgot my clapper, so I'm clapperless today. I am in Jupiter, Florida, which is just a few miles north of Palm Beach, West Palm Beach. We were down here just almost exactly a year ago, painting a wedding, and it's good to be back. We had the air conditioning on in our car today as we drove around. Let me show you what I'm painting, more or less. Looking in this direction, this is a converted horse stable, horse barn, now a wedding venue. Lovely, lovely. And I haven't talked to the bride exactly, but I talked to one of her ladies. And the lady I talked to seemed quite confident.
Hello.
Hello. This, in fact, was the view that we wanted. Now, I can tell just by looking, clever boy that I am, that this whole scene is going to be overwhelmingly warm, as almost all wedding receptions are. Human beings look better in a warm light, of course, than a cool light. So a wedding reception is one of those times when people want people to look good. So candlelight, twinkly lights, and so on and so on and so forth. So the challenge to me is, one of the challenges to me is a painting that is 100% warm. It's just not a good painting. So I have to pull on a few tricks. Let me show you that scene again. Hello, Jim. So there's the scene the way it is right now. And you can see way at the back there are some doors and windows. And right now, of course, the sun is shining and it's bright green out there. But it won't be that color when Kate and Jack are doing their first dance, which will be several hours from now. I'll let you watch me open I usually do this before I start broadcasting. These are my acrylic paints. I've been using this little pot system for nearly 20 years. These are all fluid acrylics, pre-mixed about 50-50 with acrylic medium. I have a bottle of, this is one brand of medium right here that I like pretty well. Liquitex Gloss Medium and Varnish. It's not really a varnish, it's a little bit nervy of them to call it varnish, but that's all right. So the effect of this mixture is, of course, that all of my acrylic colors, except the white, of course, all of my acrylic colors are transparent. Okay, now I didn't finish talking about the windows and doors that are way at the back of the room here. I strongly suspect that by the time the bride and groom come out to do their first dance, it will be dark out, and none of that green light that we just saw will be coming through those windows and doors. But that doesn't keep me, of course, from introducing a light out of time. I broadcast till the band starts playing.
Yeah.
Then we get into all kinds of copyright issues, so broadcasting goes out the window. But yeah, it's,
I love this. I love
okay, thank you. Thank you. No, quite all right. Good, thank you. So I need to find some ways to introduce cool colors into the painting. As you can see, one way is to just start out the painting by doing completely abstract, not at all realistic abstract painting, and include a generous, I think that's a good word, generous smattering of, there we go, I think that's good enough, of cool colors in the abstract painting. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm assuming it'll be dark outside, but in my painting it won't be dark outside. And nobody but you and me will ever be the wiser. Let me turn you around again for just a minute because I want to show you what else. One other little trick, one other little element that's in this painting, and that is the checkerboard dance floor. Okay? So the black squares in that floor, lucky for me, provide a little bit of an excuse for cool colors. Got it? You know what? I'm going to save those long brushes for later. I'm about to do some white abstract right now. And I often use my long brushes for that, but then I also discover that I often don't clean the white brushes quite well enough, and so I'm always having to go home and wrestle my long-handled brushes back into functionality. I perform CPR. I talked about that just the other day about how to a number of systems that I have for cleaning brushes. So I just did some white on top. Now here's something I've learned in the years of doing this crazy abstract stuff underneath. Most of those colors that the pretty colors that I just put on the canvas will not make the cut. That is to say, they will not be visible at the end of this painting process. Okay, now, by the way, even though, hello Kate, good to meet you. Thank you, you're beautiful. I look forward to painting you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I hope this view is good for you.
Exactly what I want.
Excellent.
Yep.
Fantastic. Good.
Good thing we didn't do the outside.
Yeah,
We're not getting married out there.
that's right. Good call, somebody. I don't usually show the bride, but it's an opportune moment. There she is lovely. All brides are lovely. Don't give me any crap. I don't want to hear it. Okay. I was going to say, even though the view, forgive me for just whipping you around there, even though the view from here is quite nice, I'm not going to paint probably primarily. Now let me think about this. Let me think again. No, I am not going to paint from this view because it's not quite the optimal view. So bear with me here just a minute. I already took a bunch of pictures and edited them, and yeah, there we go. So this is the photograph that I'm let me get it straight here in a minute. Straight, okay. Get it straight just a minute. All right, so that with a big glare in it, that's essentially the photograph that I'm going to be painting from. I'm going to set it down right here. I can turn around and get some details here where I'm standing, but I can't trust many of them because as I said, I took this picture and then I cropped it so it's the right shape. Anyway, what I'm primarily missing from where I stand right now is the floor. If I paint from where I'm standing right now, this lovely checkerboard floor that I'm painting right now will not show up. So I can't have that. The floor is a must. And so even though I prefer to paint the very view, like a real plein air painter. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? Even though I would prefer to turn right on here and paint this. Can't do that because the composition doesn't quite come out right. So there we go. So I'm using a little bit of what I see, but I think that line is so close to horizontal, I just should make it horizontal. Do you ever know that trick? Sometimes there's lines in your painting. If you're doing architecture, straight lines, if you're doing buildings, there are lines that are so close to either vertical or horizontal, and if you do them off, people won't believe you. They'll just think you made a mistake. So like that one, I think I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it vertical. I don't know the difference. I'm going to leave it horizontal. A major element in this setting. Did I tell you it's a converted horse show barn, horse stables? Evidently, we are very close to Wellington, Florida. I've learned all this, heading up to this wedding. Evidently, this is big horse country. So who knew? Only you horse people knew. And so this was a show barn. Now it is a wedding venue. All right, having drawn it one time very quickly in yellow, I'm going to graduate and do my next layer without cleaning my brushes in a light green, chartreuse, pale spring green, whatever you want to call it, bright green. Partly because I know that this scene tonight is going to be very, very, very warm. So I want as many cool colors peeking around as I can. I'm making a number of changes to my original drawing. I explained this a lot. I'm sorry if you're tired of hearing it, but you artists, this is a good tip. As you can tell, I just take off like a crazy man, drawing. I call this drawing, of course. Anything that is linear, liney, detailed, outlining the subject matter, I call that drawing, as opposed to like doing big brushes, glazing and things like that. Anyway, so I take right off drawing, throwing caution to the wind, that's a good way to put it, and counting on, depending on the freedom I have, but hang on just a second, I absolutely need a vanishing point here, if there's one I can see. All right. Counting on subsequent layers, phases of the painting process to make corrections. So I don't try to get it right. You don't need to do the way I do it, it's just the way I do it. It has the advantage of letting me paint quickly without getting all hung up trying to get it perfect. That's the advantage. The disadvantage is sometimes some of the errors, mistakes, erroneous marks actually do throw me off later in the painting process and don't manage to get corrected. I paint fast, assuming I'm going to correct my mistakes, right? Problem is sometimes I think, it would have been better if I'd measured a little more carefully from the get-go. But I don't usually think that. That's why I keep doing. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing. All right, give me just a minute here to rinse out these brushes. These poor brushes that get abused all the time. Back you guys out a little bit. Hello, David. Peroxide and water to clean your paintbrush. Really? Are you talking about, by any chance, I want to learn, are you talking about an acrylic brush that has hard, dried acrylic in it? Let me know, David. I'm always game for another technique, and I think peroxide is not toxic, if I understand right. I mean, I don't want to drink it, but the fumes, if I understand right, are not bad for you. Unlike some of the other stuff that we use to clean dry brushes. I'm looking for a little pencil sharpener. Here we go. Yeah, 2 of them. Okay, we're good. For a second there, I thought. I do, before every wedding painting engagement like this, I do pretty carefully go through my box here and make sure everything is in order. Seems to be. By the way, I just discovered my wedding painter business cards. So people will ask for cards for me to have those already out. Okay, it's pencil time. Part of the reason. Sorry, my trash bag is back here, so I want the shavings to go into my trash bag. Part of the reason I do pencils right now, 2 reasons. One is quite obvious, that pencils are a good tool for capturing realism, similitude, accuracy, details. All those words are close enough, right? Because it's a linear tool, especially early in the painting process. It's nice to be able to draw some lines that are accurate. And of course, I'm turning around a lot because even though I'm going from my composition is here on the phone, I can see what's actually happening much better if I just turn around. Roll down doors. Top of that. Okay, move this line up quite a bit. So there's a good example of a correction. See, in the yellow and the green, especially the yellow, I had a line right there. Now I go, oh, what was I thinking? It's not there. It's there. Now, what do I do with the yellow line? Nothing. In fact, that little bit of, if you call it error, is almost an exaggeration, but that little mistake is actually serves me well in the finished painting. It creates more interest, not less. Okay, then up here, there's a whole bunch of rafters, open rafters. I have a feeling I'll be painting that area a lot. It's not a major focus. Oh, and by the way, the bride and groom will go not usually right dead center, a little bit off, probably either here, and their feet will be here and their heads will be here. Oh, which brings up a point, by the way. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. Let me read. David says, no, peroxide for all time cleaning water-based paints. Brush, a few typos in there, but I think I figured out. You're saying not water, hydrogen peroxide. Very interesting. I'll give it a try. Do you soak them or you just swish them in hydrogen peroxide? I can't imagine you soak them, right? Because that would make the bristles swell. I'm imagining, right? There is another line down here, it turns out. And I know I was going to say that my view of the bride and groom is always a low view. Like when I take a picture of them during the first dance, I'll be holding my camera about sternum height, okay? And the reason for that is because I want them, the bride and groom, to be somewhat heroic in dimensions. So looking up at them achieves some of that. And anybody else, so they'll be standing up, their heads will be here. Because it's a low angle, anybody else that's standing up at the room, their heads will be lower. The further away they are, the lower their heads will be. So I need to be very careful that when I'm taking this picture, I need to be very careful that I'm also taking it. Like I can't hold it up here, take pictures, and then shoot the bride and groom from down here. Does that make sense? The perspective will be off. So I have myself pretty well trained to hang on. I'm standing back. I'm looking at the placement of the dance floor. I feel like the top line is just a little bit too high, so I'm going to lower it. I think the angle is okay. I think. And here's my vanishing point. I'm going to draw it more precisely. So all the lines in the build now. Hang on just a second. Yep, another change. Hang on. Okay, two things. One is I'm changing my mind about the angle of that line. So I just moved it up. And yet the question is what do I do about the erroneous mark? And the answer is nothing. Very rarely. Every once in a while I'll find that it bothers me. And I'll have to obliterate a bad mark in some way. But very, very rarely. Usually all those marks just go to serve to make the good. Musicians warming up. By the way, I don't know if you heard me say to one of the ladies here a little while ago that when the band starts playing, I can't, if I do broadcast, and sometimes maybe, we'll see, it has to be with no sound. And then of course I could go home and, do like a normal good YouTube citizen and add sound to it, but so much for being a normal good YouTube citizen. I've had my fill of editing. I've done plenty of editing. I don't want to do that don't want to do that usually with my life. All right, chandeliers. Oh yeah, I haven't even hinted at those, and they're huge. I mean, huge, not huge. They're big enough, but I mean they're a huge element. One, yeah, there we go. 2, 3. All right, that will demarcate the chandeliers for right now. I think you saw, if you were here a little while ago, I showed you the scene. I'll turn you around and show it to you again in a little while. But lovely, open rafter ceiling, of course. Seeing this used to be a equestrian show barn. Open rafters, and they have white fabric and white sparkly lights, of course. If you've followed my YouTube channel at all, you've heard me say that the human eye is inexorably drawn to punctiliar light. We like twinkly lights. We do. We just do. And every wedding reception is a proof of that reality. All right, then there are big. I'll turn you around again while I'm studying so the light is already getting slightly dimmer. I'll have to windows and doors in the back. There's the fabric in the ceiling and the twinkly lights and the chandeliers. And one thing I haven't captured yet are the big centerpieces. Oh, there's one up close right there. Essentially a little tree, a tree in a jar. Very popular at wedding receptions, tree in a jar. And in fact, it's not a bad idea maybe for me to put one of those way close. I think I'll do it for now anyway. I don't know whether it'll make the cut, but we'll start. It means there'll be a table. Yeah, not quite, almost. Yeah, I don't know. That makes the table coming over the corner of the dance floor, when in fact there are no tables on the dance floor. Okay, here's the chairs. There are about essentially four different styles of chairs used in the wedding venues around the country. Whoever invented or made themselves indispensable for the design and manufacture of wedding reception chairs, I think probably made a killing. But in this painting, here, I'll go ahead and start. There's actually going to be people, of course. And the people in my wedding paintings are very abstract and largely fictitious because I sort of doubt that during the first dance, I doubt that there will be a lot of people sitting watching the first dance, right? Maybe they will, I don't know. But I'm doing it. So, my job as a wedding painter is to create believable fiction. I'm trying to capture the essence of the night, and throughout, late in the night, everybody will be up and dancing, but not during the first dance. During the first dance, it's bride and groom show-off time. They're right there. And all the other people will be watching the first dance. But throughout much of the evening, people will be seated at tables. So I kind of do a time warp thing. I have bride and groom dancing and people sitting at tables, even though that may not be happening exactly at the same time. It works because people's memory will say, oh yeah, remember Aunt Maud? She was sitting over there. And also, by the way, now sometimes I try to capture the bride and groom's parents, especially if they ask me to. Most of the time, I just try to leave it abstract enough that they can find themselves, quote unquote, in the painting without me having to do them in detail. All right, now I am at this predicament. Often comes this way. David, let me see. A little bit more instruction about cross-side. Oh, you add it to the water permanently. Hey Marcus, been a long time. Good to see you too. David's giving me some tips on the composition. Appreciate that. All right, but I really do appreciate the adding hydrogen peroxide to your water. That is fascinating. So the predicament I'm in right now is I have a lot of wet paint on the canvas, and the next thing I want to do is glazes, large transparent glazes of color with fairly large brushes. But if I do that now, all this wet stuff will smear. Can't have that. And sometimes I can do something else, but this time I can't. So I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to pause this broadcast and give this time to dry. I'll tell you what, just for fun. I won't pause you right now. I don't normally do this, but instead I'll I'll take you on a walk. How about that? Wide angle. There we go. All right, so you can see stuff up close. I see a preacher back there practicing his lines. You know what you call that, don't you? You call that a preacher who practices what he preaches. Yuck, 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 yuck. Here's the building. Let me take you outside just for fun. Wonder how far away you can get and still without losing connection. Welcome to Jupiter, Florida. Guests evidently are rising on the bus. The ceremony starts in 15 minutes. And there's where the ceremony is happening. Lots of beautiful people. They were going to have the ceremony outside, but it's not raining right now, but 20, 30 minutes ago it was pouring down. So they made the right choice, and it's the ceremony venue is lovely anyway, so I hope the bride and groom are okay with that. As I said, this was a horse stable. And I didn't notice at first, but my wife, when we came in here, she said, she sniffed, she said, you know what? It still smells, and it does a little bit. And I didn't even notice. It's very, very mild and actually quite pleasant. I think you can understand that, you know, those of you who know that smell, if it's very faint and far away, it's actually kind of a pleasant smell. Beautiful tables, huh? It'll be even beautifuler when they turn on all the candles. All right, there's my little tour, that little free of charge. That doesn't usually happen, but I will pause the broadcast. I won't end it, I'll just pause it, and I'll be back in about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes because I need to let this dry. Some of you know I do have a little trick, but it's premature. I don't want to do it yet, and that is I'll take a mostly dry sting 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm back. It is quite humid here today, and I've got quite a challenge, but we'll get through it. The first thing I did is I dipped these brushes in water and then flicked them pretty good because I want them damp but not wet. And I'm just going to very strongly, vigorously, with long strokes. Oh good, it's actually going a little bit better than I thought. Some stuff.
Water by any chance?
Pardon?
Water, can I get you some?
I would love a glass or
great.
bottle or anything. Thank you. Good. It's more dry than I thought. I say this all the time, but I'll just say it again in case nobody sees me do this. When you do this, again, so there's little piles of acrylics that are the slowest to dry. That makes sense, right? Where it's the thickest. And it's hampering me from be contaminated with foreign colors, if you will. So by running my brushes through the thick stuff, it smears it out, spreads it out, and then it dries pretty quickly, right? But if you do this, you can't do little brushy strokes. It has to be just what you see me doing here. You have to act like me if you're going to do this. All the way off the end or the edge of the canvas. And for those of you who are just joining me perhaps, I just turned off the lights in here, so it's starting to look a little more like it will this evening. They're lighting the candles and so on. And that's certainly more the look, the view that I'll be aiming for. In fact, hang on. That reminds me. Give me just a minute here. Let's take another picture. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'll get you two for the night.
Pardon?
It's just a little bottle like this
Excellent.
big. Do you want
Thank
two
you so
or
much.
one?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I take a picture?
Certainly. Oh, the man wants to take a picture of me. All right, now, this next glaze that I do absolutely must be transparent. So,
Oh, you're still painting?
oh yeah, oh, I'll be painting all night.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just want to take a picture of your painting.
Oh, do you want me out of the way?
No, I want you in
Okay.
the picture too.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
This is a better picture. Okay, ready? Say cheese.
I'll be painting all night.
All right. What's your name?
Very good, thank you. Dan.
Dan. Bill. Nice
Hi,
to meet
Dale.
you.
Good to meet you. Portrait of the bride and groom here when I'm done.
Because I said you put yellow over your masterpiece.
Yeah. And red and all kinds of colors.
Okay.
I forgot to move you. It's my mistake. Sorry. There was an interesting shot, wasn't it? Painting of me. I'm sorry. A video of me rather than a video of my painting. There you go. Just a little bit different. That's all. All right. Sorry about that. All right. I think that'll do. So I did yellow, orange, and red glazes. Now let's do a little bit of purple, violet, dioxazine violet. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But it doesn't matter. Purple is all I care about. And I did, just a minute ago, as you saw, I did take an additional photograph. Let me look at that now. Let's see how I like it. Well, I'm not sure where. Oh, I know, I got interrupted. I didn't take a picture. So, hang on. Taking a picture now. Let me go over to more to where I want the picture to be taken from. Can you see me there in the background? All right. And then just for what it's worth, I'll do a little bit of editing. First of all, I'll make it roughly 24 by 36 or 2 by 3 ratio. I don't need that much sky. All right, and then I'm going to warm it up quite a bit and increase the saturation quite a bit. All right, that'll do for now. Okay, so that's actually a better photograph for me to paint from than the one that I had up there earlier, right? I will take more pictures as the night goes on. That's funny. So that man thought I was all done. That's kind of funny. That makes me laugh. Not at him, it just makes me laugh. All right, I'm doing some, again, dioxazine violet. See if I can move you guys to a slightly better edge point. There we go. And I'm going to add some quinacridone red or rose, or it's a cool red anyway, to that. And then once again, pouring medium onto my brushes, trying not to spill too much. I want to, go ahead and darken some of this canvas. Vignetting the corners already, as you can see, is taking the word vignette and turning it into a verb. Vignetting, that means darkening the corners, right? You know that. Okay, and then here where the people are, a bit dark, and I better start thinking about where the bride and groom are going to go. And I just have a feeling, not here, I have a feeling they should go just right of center. So I'm going to do some marks just to represent their presence right now. The bride is beautiful, and the groom is reasonably handsome. And so that's good. All brides are beautiful. All right, now I do not need to wait for that to dry before I do the next phase, which is so much fun. Truly, it is my first opaque white layer. So understand that everything that's on my canvas so far is transparent colors. It's very important. Bunch of chats. Let's see what you guys are saying.
About right now. Now I do it. That's dry. The next phase.
Okay. So I'm turn around and I want to see anything that is light, not white, anything that is lightish in value. And as you can see, I'm just really blobbing in those light areas. And I don't know if this is going to be bride and groom or groom and bride, so I don't dare, I would love to take these brushes and create light where her dress is going to be, but I just can't, it's premature. Okay, then up here under the awning and the rafters, we have daylight coming in from over the wall, underneath that awning that goes beyond the wall. That was probably didn't make any sense to you, but you're just going to have to trust me. And then there's these beautiful fabric swatches draped up here in the ceiling. Yeah, all right. Now I'm going to do a little bit more with white before I finish that. And then as I can do my first hint of the checkerboard floor. Okay. I find myself, by the way, disagreeing with the placement of some of my lines that I did earlier on that checkerboard floor. So that will be, I'll change those later on. All right, isn't that fun? I always love doing that phase. It's probably my most favorite single layer of all the 20 layers I do. Normally, I like drips. I do drips on purpose. That one right there, I don't like so much. Too central, too strong, so I like that one out. But normally I like drips. All right, one other thing I can do, a little bit dangerous without waiting for this thing to dry, is I can ghost in the dark squares of the checkerboard floor, I think, as well. The floor is black and white. And of course, I'm doing it, at the moment, I'm doing it blue and white because I want that black to have blue, cool undertones to it. And I like that color so much, I'm going to do a little bit of it elsewhere. Good enough. Very little. Right, so you can already see little bits of the floor showing up. All right, I think it's a little bit off book. Is that, you know that expression? I think it refers to chess. You know, the first so many plays of any chess game are on book. It's in the chess player's handbook. But at some point, since there's trillions of different options in chess, after I don't know what the number is, I'm not an expert, 23rd or 17th move, it's off book. That is to say, we've never been here before. So I have, as you may know, I have a formula in mind. This is how I paint. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Layer, 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 right? But every painting, of course, has a life of its own, like a chess game. And after a certain point, it takes on a life of its own, and the step 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, E gets switched up. And I'm in that switch up a little bit right now because I find this painting, the canvas talks to you, of course, right? That's one way to put it anyway. Like if you're listening, the canvas will tell you, the painting, if you will tell you what it needs. And this painting just a second ago was saying, help me, help me. I need, painting said to me, I need dark painted details, transparent painted details. So as you can maybe see, I am making corrections to my checkerboard floor design. Once again, so this is the 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th time, at least, the 4th time that I've drawn this floor, and I'm still making addendums, corrections, changes, modifications, edits. And again, with what I just did, I still don't even put all my weight down on that. I'll continue to look at it throughout the evening, especially when I stand back, which I really need to do here in a minute. Stand back and evaluate. All right, now I want to do some more dark transparent details. Earlier I did some real loose pencil indication of people sitting over there, and I just redid them, moving them a little bit. I heard applause. The ceremony is taking place in another part of this building, and a little while ago I heard a smattering of applause. So that tells me that the ceremony is finished. So people will probably start coming in here pretty soon. That's good. I'm at a place where I want people to come in. Actually, they won't come in here, will they? They'll go to the cocktail hour first. I find myself in a situation that is pretty common in hang on. I'm looking at the fabric swagged from the ceiling a little more carefully and discovering that my drawing is wrong. They swagged it back and forth in a zigzag pattern. Boom, 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 boom. And let me look again. Yeah. Okay, and I did not catch that earlier, so let's make that change. It's not an important one, but if that is just enough of a detail that, you know, a bride and groom, a bride anyways, if either one of them is very fastidious, paying a lot of attention to detail, they might go, wait a minute, that's not how that went. So I was doing too. Probably nobody will ever notice, just in case. I'm going to do it the way it is, okay? I was going to say, so I find myself in a position where I often am when I'm doing wedding paintings, and that is, I am anxious. I'm ready to start doing the bride and groom. There's not an awful lot that I can do. Do you remember, those of you who were watching an hour ago, I did, my first drawing was in yellow, then in green, and I had a yellow-green line here. Then when I did pencil, I said, oh, wait a minute, that's supposed to be up here. And just then again, I raised it up yet one more time. And I just point that out again to encourage some of you who should perhaps paint somewhat the way I do. The point being, when it comes to drawing, capturing, accurately rendering the subject matter, if you can train yourself to not put your weight down on your first go. I do know why artists, early journey artists, I do know why they do that. It's because they're generally, understandably, insecure about drawing. Drawing is, they would say, is not their strong suit. Understand? So they're kind of, they're nervous, they're anxious until they finish the drawing or nail the drawing. And until they nail it, they don't feel like they're nervous. And so what they often do is rush the process of drawing. It's like, okay, that's good enough, that's good enough. They say to themselves, that's good enough. Let's get on with the painting now. The painting is the part I like. An early journey painter might say. So they rush the drawing process. I think part of what I'm suggesting here is that you don't rush the drawing process. In fact, quite the opposite. Drag it out. So the biggest change from what you might be used to doing is don't put your weight down. Don't believe. Don't rest on your initial sketch. And I do know that this is somewhat different from the way many of you paint or were taught to paint. I know that. So just take it for what it's worth. And you stretch out the drawing process over many stages or phases. Looking at this open rafter stuff up here, it's quite visually complicated, which means I have to figure out some way to paint a very complicated subject in an uncomplicated way, so it doesn't feel complicated, right? I don't want this area up here to be the focal point of the painting, to say the least, right? But I want it to look like the busy open rafters that it is. That's actually not bad, just leave it right there. So I'm going to leave it for now. Okay, up here we have another one. A tree in a bottle on top of the table. Big centerpieces on these tables. Tree in a bottle, for those of you who weren't here earlier. There we go. Get it? There's a tree in a bottle. Maybe a bush in a pot. Which is better? A tree in a bottle or a bush in a pot? And, all right, so again, just hints of people. I already did some of this a little while ago. I'm doing more now. Seated figures, standing figures. I really do enjoy, turns out, I really do enjoy painting crowds of people. Like dozens of figures in an abstract manner. I'm glad I enjoy that because my job requires it of me very often when I'm doing wedding paintings. I started out 20 years ago maybe, before I did any wedding paintings. I actually marketed myself as a festival and event painter. In fact, I still have a website that's up and running called festivalpainter.com. You can go look at it if you want. Anyway, that activity, the act of painting festivals, kind of was good training for painting weddings. It got me in the comfortable painting big crowds of people in a fairly abstract manner. As it turns out, I do a lot of that now in wedding painting. So I started out early on doing festival painting, and still do occasionally, but my wedding paintings, of course, greatly outnumber Great, I get paid a lot more. Let's talk about the important thing. What do you guys say? Hey, Barbara. Hey, thanks for greeting each other. Yes, I did try to stream Uncle 60's niece. Forgive me, niece or nephew. I think it was niece, I think. Forgive me, I should know, Uncle. All right, I don't know what I can do next. While I'm waiting for all that to dry, and while I'm waiting for the bride and groom to show up, I could do another layer of pencil. Hey, baby.
Still on?
I am.
I brought you a little first order.
Ooh, and we have a place
It's a
at the
tiny-
table.
Huh? Yeah, we're at the one. I found us. Do you know where we are? Okay, you found it first. All right, are you hungry? Would you like a little few more of these? Okay.
My good wife, getting me some food to eat. This is cocktail hour. I'll turn you around just for a minute. Once again, the view I'm painting is almost here, a little bit lower. I'm not by my monitor now, so I don't really know what you're seeing, but something like that, if I'm pointing in the right direction. Lovely, eh? Had a little chat with the father of the bride a little while ago while he was waiting to process in with his daughter. And he is a veterinarian, and he used to service these stables back in the day. So that was great fun to hear. All right, pencils. Once again, Jumbo Jet Black, distributed by Jerry's Artarama. Sorry, you can't read that. They're kind of like, they're a wax-based pencil. I'm going to use my rag here just to mess up some of those marks that I did earlier, because the bride and groom are going to go right there. And I'm going to stand back about 20 feet and see if I still agree with my floor.
I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Very.
I think I do. With one exception, I'm going to lower it slightly, a little bit too prominent. Maybe I'm lowering it significantly, I don't know. But I'm going to lower it a little bit too much. How about perspective? Are we doing okay? I think so. I think so. Marks like that, abstract marks like you just saw me do with the pencil, I'm just adding a little bit of chaos to the canvas. They will work, those marks will work very well late in the process. Like, let's take for instance this great big one right here. Much of it will be covered up in the final edit layer. Some of it will not. But I'll paint up to it and let some of that show through underneath. And that's key. If you were to finish a painting and then take a pencil and go, it would look like a finished painting that someone had drawn goofy lines on, right? That would not be very satisfactory. But the fact that I'm going to paint on top of these lines, and in some cases let them still show, but it'll be obvious that they're in the inner layers, under layers. And that makes all the difference. Isn't that interesting? The fact that they will be in the under layer underneath layers. I'm trying to come up with the right word. You know what I'm trying to say. The fact that they're not in the top layer will make them feel right, appropriate, pleasing, if you will, to the viewer. When you first do it, like I just did just then, it can be a little bit jarring because your brain says, what? But later on, they'll just settle in nicely into the painting when you do stuff around them. The question then will be, well, why do you do them anyway in the first place? Because it makes the painting more interesting. I don't know how else to say it. A little bit more of that rafters up here, this time in pencil. Again, doing some marks right on top of the paint marks that are paint lines that are already there, and then other lines that are independent or separate from the paint lines. Hey, I've come up with a new way to try to describe what I think is good painting. I think good painting, and here I'm trying to think really in particular of good painters better than me. What is it that they do? What is it that they know? There's a number of things perhaps, but I'm trying to grasp them as quick as I can, one at a time. And one way to describe good painting is describe it in process. That the artist has figured out some, I'm going to call it a trick. The artist has figured out some trick of brush, paint, and wrist. I'm just going to say wrist, just for fun, okay, arm, fingers, whatever. But I'll be hammering this out for a while. The artist has figured out some trick of brush, paint, and wrist that creates the illusion of an object. How about that? Let's try that for a little while, okay? Yeah, I'm going to stand by that for a while. Oh, here's a brush, hard as a brick. So whenever that happens, I toss it back here, and I won't put it in my case here when I'm done tonight. I will save it. Hey, by the way, don't tell anybody. Stand by that. I'm enjoying your chats, you guys. Anyway, I think at the moment that's a description that works for me. And when I look at a painter who might be better than me, it's not all about, I'm trying not to sound like I'm in competition or anything like, you know what I mean. A painter whose work makes me go, wow. Of course, that's a lot of people make me go, wow. One of the ways, one of the analysis, one of the descriptions I've come up with is I can often say something like, wow, look at that. Look how he or she rendered blank. Now, here's a funny thing. That's a little bit like Bob Ross kind of thinking, isn't it? Okay, let me describe. And I liked Bob Ross's his television show as much as anybody, better than most, because I actually can kind of pretty much relate to what he's doing, and it was wonderful how he was able to do a painting show that caught everybody's attention and imagination, right? So anyway, but why was he a good painter? Well, I don't know. No, not on TV. What I'm saying is, was what he was doing good painting? I'm being just a little bit of a snob here, but not too much. I'm being mostly just trying to be a good teacher. The answer is no, not really. Why? Okay, I'm going to explain why. Because everything he did was brush tricks. Okay? I mean, I don't know if you know how to take a fan brush. It's one of these right here, right? You know how to take a fan brush and paint a happy little pine tree? It's real easy. Dip in paint. Bum, 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 bum. Done. Right? That I'm not going to do it and ruin my painting. Right? You recognize that as a Bob Ross kind of thing, right? He knew how to take a palette knife and make a beautiful, craggy, snow-covered Rocky Mountain, right? It's easy. I can do that. I really can. Some of you can too. All right, so how did he do a painting in 23 minutes? Well, mostly brush tricks. And I've said for years that every painter needs to know those tricks. You do. Those are not like, those are not bad tricks. Those are tricks you need to know and then not use them. Okay, a little more precisely. You need to know all the Bob Ross tricks and then simply don't use them as much as he did. That's the key. Almost to the point, like, yeah, you can take up a fan brush. You want to paint a distant pine tree. You can go bump, 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 3 taps, and then you better change techniques. Or why? Because his paintings were contrived. That's one word for it, right? Etc. Well, the definition that I just gave of good painting is kind of related to that. Can you see? What is good painting? Good painting is where the artist has learned some Bob Ross brush tricks. Okay, now I'm being facetious, too facetious. No, where the artist has learned some tricks of brush, paint, and wrist, I'm calling it. It's way more than wrist, but okay, let me just use it because it's kind of cute. It's memorable. These things need to be memorable. A good artist has learned a number of tricks. He doesn't use them too much. He has I guess the difference between what I'm describing and Bob Ross is a really good painter has a vastly larger repertoire of tricks than Bob. Now, again, his program was wonderful. He did it fascinating little image in 23 minutes, right? So he was under great constraints, blah, blah, blah. So was he a good painter? I don't know. Was he a good painter on his TV show? Heck no. Again, I'm being a little snobby, but being a good teacher. Was he a good painter? Maybe. He didn't do good paintings on his show. Only non-artists, as you know, think they were good paintings. Anyway, and again, forgive me, I'm being a bit of a snob. But anyway, and here I am saying, kind of going, well, you know, on the other hand, that's one way that all good painters work. They've come up with shorthand, that's another way to put it, maybe, shorthand tricks of brush, not just brush, of course, it's everything. In my case, pencil, palette knife, rag, everything, whatever tool you may use. Finger, never paint with your fingers. I say that every time I use paint with my fingers, of course. Anyway, so I propose that to you just for your consideration. Is that one way to describe good painting? I'll pick, for instance, I'll say like Jeremy Mann. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, and I'll limit myself in my thinking at the moment to his cityscape, because I do a lot of cityscapes too. Well, he has quite a repertoire, a number of ways of rendering cars on a street in a city. and taillights and bumpers and license plates and traffic lights and pedestrians and crosswalk markings and you name it. Everything that you find on a city street, Jeremy Mann has come up. And I'm not. And part of the key is he doesn't use the same one over and over and over again. That's the weak side of the Bob Ross method. All right, hang on here just a second. I'm going to do something I very rarely do. I actually talked about this earlier. I'm going to sort of erase, quasi erase, some marks that I made early with this floor because I'm confusing myself. I can't quite see where the drawing is. So the topmost mark that I painted not too long ago, that purple line, I am wiping it out. This is very rare, very rare. I don't know, one of 100 paintings. I mean, no, one of the 20 paintings probably that I intentionally erase something. Oh, thank you. Oh boy. My wife takes care of me. Thanks, babe. Same thing, I'm mixing up some dirty, opaque orange for the same reason here. Even if I'm quote-unquote erasing, again, which is very rare, but my eraser marks need to be attractive marks, right? So I'm not abandoning the art of painting. All right, but I think I am going to actually abandon this broadcast because there's not an awful lot more I can do. Let me think. Of course, I need to wait for all of this to dry. And whereas, yes, you can paint white into wet color, you can't do wet color on top of wet white. Okay, you do white on a wet painting. You can't do color on top of wet and white. Sounds so confusing. If you replay that, you can figure out what I'm saying. So I do have to wait for all those little white dots to dry. But I'm really just about at a point where I need pictures of the bride and groom. So I think what I'll do, gang, is end this broadcast completely. And if I am able to broadcast later tonight, it might be with no sound, but if I'm able to broadcast, I will do so. In the meantime, it's been jolly. Thanks. Good to see all your faces and names. You guys are good. Love it. Barbara and Uncle, love your conversation. Thanks for talking over me. All right. Thanks. Like I said, if I'm able